Welcome, Philip, to the Flawless Growth Podcast. I am very excited to have you here.
Likewise, yeah.
Awesome. So let's start with this. Can you share your journey into the fitness and strength coaching? What inspired you to get into this field?
Okay. Um, so basically, I've always been active. I played sports. I've always worked out. I started working out since I was 14. It wasn't until I fractured my ankle when I was 14 years old. Then I had to go through a little bit of a rehab process. And that was my first taste of organized, structured, workouts. I was at 14. I was 14 years old when that happened. And so ever since then, I've kind of continued on and made it kind of like my life mission to kind of help people out with injuries and work on getting stronger. I initially went to school for physical therapy because that's kind of what I wanted to do. Um, but then realized I'm in a better environment being a strength and conditioning coach. I can really actually help more people and have real effective results. So that's kind of the path I chose. And it's now almost 16 years or so. So, yeah.
Beautiful, because a physical therapy can be a little bit more for the people that are going through a recovery, right? But what you do right now, strength coaching, is more of a forever thing, right? A lifestyle that people do forever.
Yes, I mean, I definitely have people who are actively injured that I help them coach through that. I help coach them through that. I mean, I've had many clients. I have one specific client off the top of my head that he tore his ACL, and he came to me specifically, "Hey, I want you to help me fix my ACL." So even though I wasn't a physical therapist, um, it the training aspect of physical therapy is very much similar. That you would train someone who's not injured. You would just have to adjust accordingly and make sure you keep them safe. You know, that's really the difference. Without going on a rant on physical therapists, it's there's a lot of steps that they have to do to get the proper care. And for me, I know I would want an easier process because no one enjoys being injured, and they want to move past it, not go through insurance and all that stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I made a career out of it. Yeah.
Beautiful. And how was that process? I know it was when you were 14, but of the injury for you, did it take a long time to recover? Was it very hard for you, not just physically, but mentally? What did you learn from that injury?
Yeah, I mean, I so that was my freshman year of high school,
Mhm.
and it was right before basketball season, and
Oh,
that's what I wanted to
no.
play. So I missed the whole first year. Um, so I was a little devastated from that, but I do believe things happen for a reason, and I actually strengthened my bond with the basketball coach. Even though I didn't play, I was still around the team. I was still around him and coaching, and it made us kind of closer. And even though my basketball career ended up failing over time, um, I kind of learned a lot of leadership skills from him because I was so close to him, which translates to my everyday, me as a fitness manager, but also coaching my clients. You have to be a leader if you're going to be a coach. So I do think things have a way of working out. And even though, again, my basketball career derailed, not because of that, but other factors too. But that was the biggest turning point of, and he was actually the first person, my basketball coach, who's kind of like my second dad. He was like, "Oh, you seem to like working out. Maybe you should become a personal trainer." So that was kind of the first. I was 16, I think, and that was the first kind of like interesting. Yeah, you're right. Maybe I should. And then I looked into it, and here we are now.
Beautiful.
So things have a way of working out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that power of adapting. Because a
Hmm.
lot of times when some sport people they have an injury, they can either go to a very dark place or take
Hmm.
that as a learning, even though it hurts very much, and adapt and maybe find something else, even in the same, not exactly the same, but maybe like around sports. So very good
Hmm.
that because you already had that passion. So how do you transform that passion into something that's a little bit of the same?
Of course, yeah. And I mean, I've studied injuries. I've
Mm-hmm.
studied the psychology of injury. There's so many avenues you can go with injuries, and not even like a sports injury. I mean, like a medical,
Yeah.
disease or something like that. But it really comes down to mindset and how you perceive it and how you choose to go about it makes the biggest difference. If you're just
Yeah.
gonna be kind of mopey and depressed, good luck recovering from that. You
Right.
kind of have to be like, I got this. I'm going to do such and such, and then I'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever you're working with, you want to assume that they're a true professional and they know what's best for you. And then you trust them and you listen to them, and then you'll get there. But if you're
Right.
going to be like difficult and questioning methods and, things like that, it can be a challenge for yourself.
And not
So,
doing the process because it's very hard sometimes for people to if they don't have the discipline before getting an injury or if they're very used to train
mhm.
just a certain way and now you have to kind of like change that training into very specific exercise that sometimes at least for me because I do physical therapy sometimes they can be a little bit boring but it's super
Mhm.
important for you to make sure that you're doing it because if you don't you're definitely not gonna recover.
Yeah, I mean, most boring exercises are really
Yeah.
the best exercises. So I'm sure there's some good strategy there.
uh,
But back to mindset, I mean, I trained this guy many, many years ago. He came to me perfectly healthy, and then
mm,
he tore his ACL outside of the gym. And he's like, I don't care if it heals. I'm a CPA. Who cares? I don't need my knee for
right.
that. So that's like to show you how people's mindset can really be. Some people
Wow.
just don't care.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yes I think it's maybe it's just the it's just so hard to change a habit more than they that than what they care because they could care but it's just sometimes okay it's not worth it for me to it's very difficult for me which sucks.
Yeah, I mean, take injuries out of the equation. Just having, I have many clients that I oversee that, have whatever goals and they struggle with it time and time again. And it really comes down to priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And do you really prioritize your health, your goals? And everyone says yes, but do they really?
Right.
I get it if you're a busy CEO, busy mom, that kind of thing, which is totally acceptable. But funny enough, those highly busy people find a way to
Mm-hmm.
make time for it and get it done. It's those like
100%.
semi-busy people that have like a little bit of too much free time. They're like, you know what? I'd rather go spend time with my friends during the summer outside
Mm-hmm.
versus like get a workout in or whatever. You
Yeah.
know. And I'm not saying don't have your fun, but
Right.
it's priorities.
100%.
Yeah,
I think the very busy people understand that that time that they take for themselves is going to improve everything around their life, even their work
I
that they
agree.
care so much. So I think it's
I agree.
definitely yes that mindset about it.
Hmm.
Okay,
I
Philip.
just trained someone right now that he comes to us during his lunch break,
Uh huh.
from work. So he
Great.
just squeezes it in, and he knows it's important, and that's
Exactly.
it.
Exactly. Okay, and in
Yeah.
TS Fitness, Philip, you've worked as a man, as a coach, as a programmer, and as a manager. So, how has your
Hmm.
role evolved throughout the years? How many years have you been with the company, and how did you start like scaling?
Great question. So I came to TS at 2021, right when the pandemic was kind of clearing
Mm-hmm.
up a little bit, and it was kind of like okay to go back into a public environment and
Mm-hmm.
train and run other people and stuff. So I came in as a coach, and very quickly after a few months, I started doing programming, and eventually that turned into fitness manager, and then you know helping out the coaches that we have make sure they're
Mm-hmm.
set up for success. Um, as far as like how my role has changed, and yeah, so it's 4 years now, over 4 years. As far as my role and how it's changed, I mean, it's pretty much the same with obviously added on responsibilities, but it's a small business, so like no matter what the day entails, you kind of have to adapt and roll with the punches. I mean, we can have an issue with our towel delivery service, and like
Mm-hmm.
people need our towels,
Right.
So it's like you're always kind of putting out fires as a manager in general, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
but especially in a fast-paced gym environment, anything can happen. I mean, we've had times where the internet doesn't work, and you have
Oh
to
yeah.
kind of adapt to it. And all of our programs are on computers that require internet. We
Okay.
also have offline mode, but little things like that. You're always kind of like ready to adapt to the situation and always stay calm. And that's just me being a manager. But
Hmm.
as a coach, you're never gonna have two of the same exact clients. You're never gonna have two people with the exact same situations. You know, I've had very similar people over the years, but ultimately there's something different that you have to be able to account for. Even if someone's physically the same as someone else, maybe one day they're extra tired because they only had 2 hours of sleep, and you have to account for that. Or maybe someone is going through something personal, family members not well, or whatever. There's so many things that can happen, and you as a coach, you're kind of like everyone's psychologist, and you kind of have to hear them out and listen to them, and really, it's kind of like a dance. We work on this together versus just like do what I say.
Right, exactly. Because it's very
Yeah.
important to understand the needs, and yeah, not just physical needs, but also emotional
Hmm.
needs. 100%. Um,
Hmm.
and in what do you enjoy most about both of the sides? So the one side is the management, and the other side is the coaching side.
Well, the coaching side, no matter what I do in my life, I'll always love and enjoy coaching. That's my passion. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that, over the years I've done less and less of it, but doesn't mean I'll ever want that to go away, because I do love that human to human interaction as a coach. I mean, just of course, there's going to be some difficult clients. That happens in any business,
Yeah.
but there's always, for those difficult clients, there's 10 people. For every one difficult client, there's always 10 really good clients that you end up really caring for, and changing their lives is something that I know I feel passionate about. But I know a lot of coaches in general, that's what they're really for. Changing a person's life, helping them achieve whatever it is that they need to be successful in, helping a busy mom feel stronger so she can actually carry her newborn kid. That's something life changing.
Mm-hmm.
So we always live for those moments, though, those life changeable moments.
Yeah.
As far as management, I've always been a natural leader. I mean, I was the captain of my basketball team. I played volleyball in college as well, volleyball and basketball. I was captain of both teams. So I always kind of had this natural leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
So as a manager, I only get to like sharpen those skills more and more. And, you know, eventually over time, leaders never stop leading in any department. And, you're always looking for the next new task, or,
Mm-hmm.
or challenge rather.
And I think that's also one of the something that can be hard but also very beneficial at the same time is when you're in a small business, you get to sharpen a
Hmm.
lot of those skills because you have to wear a lot of hats and figure it out a lot. So definitely,
Hmm.
that's what you're doing in the small business, because sometimes in a really big business you just have this one task and you really don't even understand a lot of things that are happening outside or is
Yeah.
just very focused on one single thing. So I've worked in small
Yeah.
businesses as well, and now right now my business is small as well. So yes, I
Mhm.
definitely see how you can learn a lot from everything.
Yeah, I mean, little things like the other day, last week, I was trying to make a copy to a key, and I find out that an elevator key, which is like a regular looking key, is like a special custom key that takes weeks to get
Oh
ordered. Then
my
you have to
goodness.
spend it. It's like just a small little key. I can't even get that copied unless I pay
Exactly.
like $100. So it's like, yeah, you learn those little things in a business when you work in a small business for sure.
100%. Okay, now let's talk a
Hmm.
little bit about the fitness program. So you guys do um, a type of group classes, but they're individual as well. So how do you approach
Hmm.
the design for those programs?
So it is personalized, it is customized, but we approach it with a very, and it's maybe not the best way to say it, but like a template approach.
Okay.
So we start that way where everyone is like a blank piece of paper. So I have a general idea of what I want them to be able to accomplish, like simple basic movements like a deadlift, a squat, whatever. But during my first workout with that person, that intro session is what we call it. It's kind of like an assessment where I'm running through specific exercises for them to do, and it's more of a test for me to know what they can and cannot do. And based on what they do, I can then paint a better picture of what to put in their program. So maybe they struggle with a squat, so maybe we regress them to something else, maybe a squat off the bench, especially if it's like an older person who has balance issues. But there's always room for improvement from a first encounter. Obviously, no one's going to be perfect. They're a little nervous. We factor those things as well. But you want to kind of have an idea, like a roadmap in your head, what to do, and then you try your best to get there. And if you don't, that's okay. We have different detours we can take, but eventually we would like to have our clients, being able to perform whatever specific exercises. So it starts off with like a template mindset, but it really isn't a template because most people rarely follow the template. There's always some tweaks and changes that we make along the way. And that's the thing about our program too. It is personalized, but it evolves over time. It's not just personalized one time and that's it. I know a lot of not so great trainers that do stuff like that. They'll personalize it and they never really adapt it. And it's for us, every 8 workouts you get a new program. So whether it takes you a month or 2 weeks, it depends. I mean, hopefully, you're consistent and you're getting there sooner rather than later. But we want to make sure we're adjusting accordingly. For example, one client today, he was playing soccer yesterday, which is totally out of my control. I don't know what he's doing in soccer. Someone stepped on his foot, and we made some modifications today. Nothing crazy, but still. So we took some pressure off his foot. We didn't add on to the problem. A lot of gyms, a lot of group classes, they just follow accordingly. And especially if it's a lot of people, like let's say 50 people, they'll just do the same thing and they don't care if you have injuries, and that's how you get more injured. And the cycle continues. I have so many clients come through our doors that like, I don't want to name names of gyms, but they're like, this place beat me up. Can you please fix me? So, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about those things. Sometimes it can happen. Well, from what I've heard, it can happen a lot, like in certain CrossFit gyms, because the training is very. It's for men and women, right? But men are more like stronger, and sometimes girls like get really beaten up because the trainers are telling them more weights, but at this like sometimes you shouldn't be able to move the same weight as a man.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, sorry, you wanted to ask a question?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's funny that you mentioned that because we have maybe 75% of our clients are females, and a lot of our females lift a lot more than our men. So it's pretty funny that you say that. Yeah. It's just, I think men have egos and they approach it with like, I gotta go heavy, heavy, heavy. Women are more open-minded to gradually going up in weights. And that's really how you're supposed to go about it. You're supposed to gradually get there. I'm sure you've heard the term progressive overload. A lot of guys just go, and then they get hurt. Then they take like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So it's funny that you say that because I'd argue that it's a culture thing, and specifically with CrossFit, they built this culture of like you got to go fast, you got to go hard, and your last rep is supposed to be just as good as your first rep. And like scientifically speaking, that's not possible. Fatigue is a factor, and you're just not going to be, that great at keeping up with your form over time as you get tired. And that's the kind of culture we've created here, where it's like you go at your own pace. There's no rush. I mean, yes, there's a rush. You have to finish within the 50 minutes of the session, and it's okay if you go over a little bit, but it's not like fast. That's how people get hurt. We teach people, from beginners to advanced people, where they know what they're doing, but they don't really know what they're doing. They turn off their brains. They had a long day at work. They come in here. They just want someone to tell them what to do and make sure they're doing it correctly. And that's really, to dumb it down, that's really what we do. but they trust us enough where they can turn off their brains. Versus there's people who don't trust their coach or don't trust the gym that they're going to, and they're thinking like, I know what's best for me, and I can do this way. And usually, most people don't know what's best for them. It's like leave it to the experts, assuming they actually are an expert.
Right, of course. Yes, because that happens where sometimes they can, like, I've had this scenario one time that I was in a class and I modified an exercise because my knee was hurting a little bit. And the teacher, instead of asking me, "Hey, what's wrong? Why did you modify it?" or um, "Is it something hurting?" He was like pushing me to do the exercise, where I had to tell them, "No, it's hurting," and he was like kind of like still pushing me to do it. So I think yes, it's very very important for us to culturally learn more and push back, back.
Yeah, and I do think pushing is a good quality of a coach because you need to know when to push people. But when there's pain, that's usually a sign of like we need to take a step back.
Right.
I get it. There's always going to be a client that's like that wants to go a little lighter, and they're stronger, and you want to motivate and push them. That's understandable. But when there's actual pain involved, that's when you want to ask questions, reassess. Don't just be defensive and be like, no, we're going to keep doing this.
Right.
There's got to be a reason. Yeah, so you got to know your client basically. If they're a person who has bad knees and you keep giving them bad things for their knees are probably going to get worse. Definitely not going to get better. Versus someone who like never has knee issues and one day they do, you would, take a little more care of them when that happens. So it's really just kind of connecting with clients and really knowing who you're working with. There's a time and place to push people. There's a time and place to let people do something easier, but you need to know when to do that.
Right. And also think long term, because if the person gets an injury, probably they're gonna not go to the gym for a couple of months or something. So definitely try to keep the client.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Philip, and what would you say that are the main benefits of having a group but personalized class at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, to start off, everyone's like, some people are different and they prefer being, in their own company, that's okay. Some people prefer a one-on-one trainer, that's okay too. But usually 9 times out of 10, people want that atmosphere of a group class, the bumping music, the energy, the companionship, the camaraderie, the community. Our gym is called TS Together Stronger. We're all about community. But also it's convenience. We have an app where people can just book whatever sessions they want to come to. We have over 60 a week, so they can just pick and choose whatever times. Versus like a one-on-one trainer, you would have to, two people have to communicate towards each other and figure out a time that works, and hopefully it works, and then hopefully it can be consistent, all that kind of stuff. We make it very flexible. We have a very generous 2-hour cancellation policy that it's pretty unheard of. I've never heard of another gym do that. We're in Manhattan, so we know lots of things can pop up in your work calendar and life. Things happen. So we want to make it even more flexible for our clients, easier for them to be accountable for themselves and be consistent. That way they actually get results. In group classes, you get that too, but you don't get that one-on-one attention, that personalization. Our groups max out at 6 people. So that's pretty intimate compared to like, a group fitness class that can be 50 people.
Yeah, super intimate.
And none of our coaches are working out during that time. It's not like, hey, follow me. We're all coaching. We're not working out. We can do our workout on our own time.
Yeah, I think that's good as well. And okay, now in today's world, there's a lot of people turning into certain like medical aids, like Ozempic, which sounds very amazing, right? It sounds, because we're all kind of looking for that magic pill, right? So I would like for us to discuss what are your thoughts on these drugs, the pros and the cons.
Yeah, I mean, without going into specifics, because I don't think we need to talk about specifics, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously the benefits are, you lose weight. That's the key phrase is people do these drugs and they lose weight. What they don't realize is they're losing muscle mass.
Yeah.
They're not losing fat, which is really what you want to lose. So the number on the scale is going down, but they're not getting stronger.
Mm-hmm.
They're this is even assuming they're having a high protein diet, which they should in general, but especially if you're on that drug.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that doctor has communicated to them that that's what they need to do. But assuming they're doing that, they're still going to lose muscle mass. And then there's a lot of older people that want to be tired and lazy and not work hard to get those results. And they're getting older and they're taking a shortcut, but then they're getting the opposite of getting stronger, and then that leads to like osteoporosis and bone density issues and things like that, which doesn't help you in the long run in your life.
Yeah.
And we could talk all day about the side effects, hair loss, loss of smell, taste, things like that. I mean, I've read some research on, don't quote me on this, but there's some, peer-reviewed journals on specifics. Like, I think like 20% of people on Ozempic have reported like vision loss and like future
I've read that too.
chance of being blind in the future. Like that's a huge side effect that people are like, it's okay, I'll worry about it later.
Right.
And so I know it sounds like it's all bad. That's what I'm saying, but there is a time and place for it. Like if someone's been struggling their whole life, and I'm talking like obese,
Mm-hmm.
like 400, 500 pounds, whatever. And they have joint pain, they have knee pain, back pain. And it's because they have a lot of weight to carry around. Something like that can definitely help them. But then again, they have to take the proper steps to get them out of the side effects, like muscle mass. It's like steroids. People think that steroids just makes you big and you gain muscle. Steroids, in a nutshell, just opens up your capacity to do more. So people who are actually on steroids actually work out harder. The people who do it the proper way. And I'm not saying that you should do steroids, um, but they know that it just opens the room, the capacity to do more, and they can work harder. And that's how they really get their results. Versus just like, oh, I can just take steroids or Ozempic, and then I wake up tomorrow and it's different. Also, people don't talk about the negative mental side effects of like, I mean, most of these weight loss drugs, they basically trick your brain into thinking you're full and you lose an appetite and you're only eating like 1,200 calories a day. Like your body's in survival mode. And that's not healthy, you know, on a day to day basis. You can only imagine what that does to someone a year from now, 2 years from now. Ozempic and those kind of drugs are still relatively new.
Yeah.
So we don't know like the long term effects yet. We don't know what's going to happen to those people 10 years from now. That's kind of what happened with steroids. People took it and they saw it as a way to get bigger and more muscular. No one talks about the negative side effects that you could die in 20 years or whatever.
I know.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
there's.
so I think it's hurting the industry because people are taking shortcuts.
Yeah.
But there is some people that could really benefit from it. The the problem is people look at instant gratification, not gradually getting to where they want to get to in a safe manner. They'd rather be unsafe and then worry about the consequences later. And I have a few clients that are on it, and some of them I'm totally fully supportive on because I know they're in the right mindset. Some of them aren't, and I have to constantly reassure them and remind them, hey, make sure you're having a lot of protein, make sure you're doing this. And those are the clients that I know of. I'm sure there's some clients that might not even be comfortable telling me, and that's okay. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what you say. Like, if you're really obese, like this is like because sometimes it's even life or death, right? These people they're very close to having a heart attack or whatever issues that they could have. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
consider it. But it's just very kind of like regular people with a little bit of weight that are starting to use it. And there's this analogy where, like, for example, if you have a fish tank and the water is it's dirty, you don't give the fish medicine, you clean the water, right? So it's kind of like
Yeah.
that. You need to, I know it's harder of course to create a lifestyle that where you're healthier, but it's the only healthy way to do it. It's the only right way to do it if you're gonna think long term.
I think part of the problem is, and it's like a society thing, it's maybe I'm specifically talking about New York, but I think a lot of people have it in their head to, in order to start getting good results and put in the work, they have to be at a certain level. And like, I guess people are afraid to be beginners, or afraid to have no knowledge or no expertise. And they're like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, for example, there's people who want a trainer, but then when they actually get to that point to work with the coach and work with the trainer, they're like, oh, I'm not ready yet. Let me go work out on my own for a few months, then come in. Because I think they think a trainer or a coach is going to like crush them and kill them. And it's really not. It's really, we meet you where you're at. And I've had so many people turn down training because they really feel like they're not ready for it. But you're always ready for it. At any point, we're here to help. A true professional would be here to help you, no matter where you're at, and hopefully help you correctly. But I think people have it in their heads that they're not ready for it. So then they see a shortcut. They're like, maybe that will get me one step closer to doing the right thing. And then realistically, people get lazy, they fall off, and then they get the results that they want from the drug because they look different in the mirror and the number on the scale is better. But they don't realize that percent body fat is still the same because most people don't actually measure that. And if they do, it's usually not that accurate. We have an in-body machine, which is a medical grade scanner, which is like plus or minus 1% in either direction. And that's like $10,000. Most people aren't going to pay $10,000 for a machine like that.
Yeah, no.
You know? So there's lots of like cheap scales that tell you your body fat, but it's usually not accurate. So people really have no idea what their body fat percentage is. And even if they do, they think, oh, I have to be 5% or 10% or whatever. When really there's so many different factors, but usually 10% is pretty like unhealthy, you know? If you're a professional athlete, that's different because you're burning so many calories. And you're gonna fuel up accordingly. But if you're a regular person, you're 10%. That's usually like you're malnourished, you know. Especially if it's like 5% body fat. Yeah. So like realistically, you want to be between like 10 and 20%. And for females, it's even more because they just carry more weight with hormones and things like that. But they think, oh, I have to be the same as what a guy is, and that's just simply not true.
Absolutely. Okay, Filip, now let's talk a little bit about digital marketing. Do you guys do any kind of digital marketing for the gym?
We do. We do various different things. I'm aware of what we do, but I don't do it day to day, so I don't fully know exactly what we're doing. But we do have a digital marketing agency that we work with. Oh, nice. We have different kind of ads that we have different things going on. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Right. All these different things.
Yeah, that's definitely how kind of like the digital marketing world works, because you're able to measure a lot different from like regular marketing. It's a little bit harder to measure. So in digital marketing, as you mentioned, sometimes some things work and some others don't, but it's perfectly normal. You have to be testing all the time to make sure that you find your winners and your losers. Very cool. Super cool that you have an agency. Is it an agency from New York or is it an agency from other part of the country?
No, it's not specific to New York. They have offices all around.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah.
Wow, very cool. Okay, and in regards to any kind of marketing, it doesn't have to be digital marketing. Is there anything that you can think of that you guys had a specific struggle with?
I think this is not necessarily specifically us. I think it's just the culture or the world of fitness and gyms in general. Summers is always kind of slow. People are traveling, people want to be on vacation, people want to enjoy their summer. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think that's always something that it's almost like expected that's just a slow season, and that's when it is. That's what it is. And that's something that like I don't think anyone can fix specifically. But the key is to not just be complacent, just to try something. You never know. We have a big referral program here where basically if they bring in a friend, first of all, we allow people to bring in their friend at any time. You just have to give us some heads up so we can put them in a session. Oh, cool. But if they have an option to do like a 2-week free trial where we have absolutely zero pressure for them to continue. There's no pushy salesman or anything like that here. But if they do that and they do sign up, the person who originally referred them, they get $100 off their membership.
Oh, nice.
So that
That's
next,
a good referral.
exactly, yeah. So so we do things like that because word of mouth is very powerful in general, but specifically in the world of fitness, where even if someone had a great experience, which is great, it's always going to be better if they're doing it with someone they truly know, like a friend, or a loved one or a spouse or whoever. I mean, we have couples that come here. We have best friends. Just yesterday, I was training these two girls, these two women that I knew they were always good friends and they were close, but I didn't know they used to be roommates together.
Oh, wow.
And when you're roommates with someone like that, that person.
Yeah.
That's a great friend.
Yeah.
They're now married, so they both have their own separate lives and they have husbands and things like that. But they used to live together, and I'm not even talking about like college roommate, like in Manhattan, like let's split the rent type of roommate.
Yeah.
So, and they almost always come together, and
Very cool.
and one of them came to us first, and eventually she referred her friend, and that's how we got her into the gym. So we always look for opportunities to help. It's not even like from a business standpoint. It's who else can we impact that even if someone just takes us up on the 2 weeks and then we never see them again, we don't care. That's 2 weeks that we jump started someone into a better lifestyle, and hopefully they learn something and they can take those habits and carry it into somewhere else. So
100%.
yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Philip. Thank you so much for all of the knowledge and the great conversation. Where can people learn more about you and about TS Fitness New York?
You can learn more about TS from our website, tsfitnessnyc.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram, coach.philip, Filip. I post a lot of videos there, mostly goofy stuff because I like to be goofy. But there's links to our website and other things, and we always have different challenges and promotions that we got going on to get people in the door. And if you don't live in New York, we also have like virtual and digital options as well.
Nice.
But obviously, it's a much better experience in person, of course.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much, Philip.